The mansion felt suffocating that day, as if even the walls were afraid to breathe. Every room bore witness to suppressed secrets, broken trust, and shattered relationships. Enveloped in a heavy, eerie silence, Cihan had not slept a single moment through the night. The same images replayed relentlessly in his mind. Hanker's face, the hidden pain in his eyes, and Mukadder revealing the truth that had shattered his world. He kept asking himself over and over, how could I have been so blind? So ready to accuse Hanker instead of believing him. Yet, another battle raged inside him, a war between ego and love which kept him from reaching any conclusion. Meanwhile, Mukadder sat in her room, staring at the mirror, yet even her own reflection felt foreign. Cihan's eyes haunted her thoughts. Respect had turned into resentment, and it was slowly tearing her apart. For the first time in her life, she felt guilt. She had always believed she was right, that her decisions served the family's best interest. But now, she realized she had crushed her child's happiness with her own hands. Suddenly, she rose. A strange determination lit her eyes, as though she had decided to correct the greatest mistake of her life. In the old mansion, Hanker sat alone in an abandoned room, staring out the window. Memories from the past spun before his eyes. The days when everything seemed simple and beautiful while he was with Cihan. Now, every memory felt like a wound. Instinctively, he reached out for his son, Öfkeden, but the space was empty. The void gnawed at him from within. He tried to appear strong, yet he was broken. Then came a soft knock at the door. Hanker flinched. His heart raced, slowly opening it. He froze at the sight of Mukadder, and his shock deepened when he saw Öfkeden beside her. The boy who had made his world feel incomplete was there, alive. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Tears welled up in Hanker's eyes, and his lips trembled. Mukadder stepped forward slowly. Her eyes no longer carried pride but remorse. She extended Öfkeden to Hanker and spoke in a heavy, measured voice. "This is your right. What I took from you should never have been taken from a mother. It was a grave mistake." Hanker approached with trembling hands, scooped Öfkeden into his arms, and pressed him to his chest, weeping. The cries were filled with both anguish and relief. A lost world was being stitched back together. At that moment, the door burst open and Cihan entered. His face was a storm of anger, shock, and sorrow, unprepared for the scene before him. His eyes locked on Mukadder as he shouted, "How dare you? My son, how could you give him to him?" Hanker clutched Öfkeden tighter in fear. Mukadder, for the first time, lowered her gaze and replied calmly, "Yes, he's your son. But he also has a mother, and I had taken what was rightfully hers. Today, I only returned what was never mine." Cihan's anger did not subside. It intensified. "You had no right. You've always controlled my life, and today was no different." Her words pierced Mukadder's heart like arrows. Hanker watched helplessly. He wanted to speak, but didn't interfere in the fragile moment between mother and child. Tears streaming, Mukadder whispered, her voice trembling, "I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But today, for the first time, I tried to make it right. Punish me if you must, but do not take a child from his mother." Cihan's heart softened slightly, though his ego remained rigid. Hanker held Öfkeden tightly, torn between love and the fear of loss. A profound silence settled over the room, broken only by Öfkeden's soft hiccups. Cihan took a deep breath. His voice, less harsh than before, carried a hint of vulnerability. "It won't be easy. Healing what's broken takes time." He turned to leave, pausing as if he wanted to say more, but words failed him. Hanker remained, clutching Öfkeden, hope flickering in his tear-filled eyes. Mukadder watched quietly, recognizing, belatedly, that she had taken the right step. But she also knew the weight of her. Mistakes wouldn't vanish so easily. Cihan stood alone in the mansion, haunted by Hanker's image. The words, the silence, the pain, they all unsettled him. For the first time, he realized he had wronged not only Hanker but his own heart. Punching the wall in frustration only intensified his anger, this time directed at himself. Mukadder returned to the mansion with heavy, deliberate steps. Each step reminded her of the mistakes she bore. Entering the living room, all eyes fell upon her. No one spoke, but the silence was deafening. Skull watched from a distance, concern etched on her face. The game was spiraling out of her control. She approached Mukadder, whispering, "What have you done? Everything will end." Mukadder, for the first time, ignored her. With a weary tone, she said, "It's already over. Only the truth remains." Skull paled. She realized she might finally be alone. Meanwhile, Hanker sat in his room, gently stroking Effahan's hair, cherishing every fleeting moment of happiness, though fear lingered. What if this joy doesn't last? What if Cian comes back and takes everything again? He smiled at his son, yet tears still fell. Another knock startled him. He opened the door to see Cian. They stared at each other, silent for a few tense seconds. Cian's expression no longer carried anger, but deep exhaustion and regret. "Slowly," he said, "I need to talk." Hanker remained silent for a moment, then stepped aside. Cian entered, his eyes immediately drawn to the peacefully sleeping Effahan. A mix of relief and pain surged in him. He whispered, "I made a terrible mistake. A huge mistake." Hanker watched silently. Cian continued, "I didn't believe you, but my heart knew it couldn't be true." Tears filled Hanker's eyes, yet she composed herself. "The problem wasn't just that you didn't believe me, it was that you never asked." Cian lowered his head, struck by the truth. Silence fell, but it was no longer icy. Something had shifted. Slowly, he approached Hanker and asked, "Will you give me a chance?" Hanker looked at him, suspicion and love warring in her eyes. She did not answer immediately. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Skull paced her room, a new plan forming. If Hanker and Cian reconciled, all her efforts would be wasted. She decided on a final, game-changing move. She picked up her phone and dialed an unknown number, her eyes glinting with dangerous intent. The time has come. The next step must be taken. Hanker and Cian continued to speak. "I want to fix everything," Cian said. "Us, our son, and myself." Hanker inhaled deeply. "Everything can be fixed, but it will never be the same." Cian nodded, accepting the reality. Slowly, he approached Effahan and kissed his forehead, a father's love shining clearly on his face. Hanker felt a flicker of hope but remained cautious. Outside, darkness loomed, yet within the mansion, countless decisions were being forged. Mukadder bore the weight of her sins, Skull prepared her scheme, and Hanker and Cian tried to piece their broken love together. But the storm ahead would test them far more brutally. Night deepened. A hidden storm simmered in the silence, as though every shadow warned of the coming chaos. In a distant room, Skull watched the dark sky, a deadly light in her eyes. Her plan was ready, if she did not act now. Hanker and Cian's fragile reunion would succeed, and she could not allow that. She smiled to herself and murmured, "The game isn't over. The real game begins now." She called the unknown person again, her voice calm yet lethal. "Tomorrow everything will change. I just want Hanker to fall in Cian's eyes forever." Meanwhile, Cian remained in Hanker's room. Unspoken words hung heavily between them. "Gathering courage," he said. "Tomorrow I want to reveal the truth in front of everyone. I don't want this to end like this." Hanker studied him, fatigue and hope visible on her face. The truth must come out, but then what? Will you truly leave everything behind? Cian paused, seeking the answer himself. Then he said softly, "I'll try, because this time I don't want to lose you." The words touched Hanker's heart, though fear still lingered. That night, Skull's plan set in motion. By morning, the mansion buzzed with unease. Everyone was summoned to the living room again. The atmosphere was heavier than ever, as if something monumental was about to happen. Mukadder sat quietly in a corner, remorse still evident. Cian stood solemnly, ready to speak the truth. The door suddenly burst open. Hanker entered, her steps strong but hurried, drawing all eyes. Cian glanced at her, a subtle emotion flickering in his gaze. Then, the door swung open once more, and an unfamiliar man entered, holding documents and a phone. Everyone stared in shock. Skull smiled faintly, as if she had been expecting this moment. The man announced loudly, "I have the truth in my hands. Everything will change." Cian, stunned, asked, "Who are you?" The man pointed directly at Hanker. "I know her secret. It was all a drama." Whispers erupted across the room. Hanker's face drained of color, bewildered. The man played a video from his phone. Hanker appeared to speak to someone, seemingly planning to take Öfkeden. Seeing this, Cihan's face hardened. "What is this?" he demanded angrily. Hanker panicked. "It's a lie. The video is manipulated. I never did such a thing." Yet, everything seemed stacked against her. Trust wavered once again. Skull chuckled quietly from within, her plan seemingly succeeding. Then, Drea stepped forward, her voice firm and loud. "Enough of this." All eyes turned to her. "Approaching the unknown man," she declared. "It's all false, and I can prove it." For the first time, Skull's face changed, sensing something had gone wrong. Drea looked at Cihan and warned, "If you make a decision today without thinking, you'll truly lose everything." Silence fell again, this time heavier and more dangerous. Cihan's fists clenched. His eyes darted between the video and Hanker, caught once more at the crossroads, trust or doubt. And thus, the storm that had been silently brewing was finally poised to break.